Hello, I'm Holmes, and this is Scared.
This is the Scared Podcast.
So, what does the word scared mean? Look up the word on Google, and you're told fearful, frightened. Dictionary.com says to fill, especially suddenly, with fear or terror, frighten and alarm. But I suppose for most of us, scared is the fear of the unknown. May it be strange sounds, lights in the sky, or just something you can't explain. But of course it's a personal thing. We're all scared of different things. So some of the stories that you hear on the show might not scare you, give you goosebumps, put the hairs up on your arms. But we hope that some of the stories do make you scared. And they certainly scared the people that sent them in to us. And a massive thank you to those people. At the moment, Twitter followers who responded to our tweets and took the time to record their real stories from all over the world of situations which made them scared. My first time of being scared? Well, I remember it like it was yesterday. 1978, I was 5 or 6, and my dad had promised to take me to the movies. Probably to see, Star Wars or Superman? Either way, we didn't go, and I remember being really upset by this. Going to bed and crying, but opening my eyes and looking above me, and some sort of white mist floated over my bed. I remember it being just like a cloud, just floating there. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, it was still there. I closed my eyes one more time, and then it had gone. Maybe related, but a couple of weeks before that, my beloved great-grandmother had passed away. Was it her spirit? I don't know. But I do know I was scared. Our first story this week was sent to us from the United States, from Dwayne Ayres. It was an experience that certainly scared him, and I'll let him tell you in his own words.
Hey everyone, my name's Dwayne. I live in the United States, St. Louis, Missouri, and 54 years old. I've had paranormal experiences my whole life. My twin brother and me and my mom, we moved in this apartment, and I found a Ouija board in the back cupboard-like thing behind the stairs. Right away, I took it out, took it to the dumpster, threw it in there, every part of it. A couple things happened in there. The first thing, I was up in my bedroom upstairs. It was like summer, not too hot, not too cold, had the window open. It was like 3 in the morning. I'm laying on my bed, but I was wide awake and laying on my side facing the wall. And all of a sudden I felt someone sit on the bed. And I know the door didn't open. I knew right away wasn't, there was nobody there, not in the flesh. And, but it grabbed my hand, and my hand was like, really had my hand tight. So I'm trying to pull my hand away and wanting to look over, but then I'm trying to pull my hand away to have it let go, and I had to pull with all my might, and I finally, it let go, and I felt the pressure of the bed, so whoever it was got up. I knew where the light switch was. I just jumped up, hit the light switch, nothing there. I was laying on the couch, broad daylight, just laying there, chilling for a minute, and all of a sudden something jumped on me, and I was paralyzed. I mean, I couldn't even open my eyes. It's like, how easy it is just to open your eyes. I could not move a muscle. I couldn't even open my eyes. And at the same time, this thing's on top of me. With my eyes shut, I could see his face. And it's something you don't want to see, I'll tell you that. And growling and on me, and I could see his face.
From Houston, Texas, Ash Grimes got in contact to tell us her story. It's like something from a Steven Spielberg film.
When I was in college, my first class of the day was canceled, and I was driving to campus a little later than usual. It was about an hour away on a freeway. It was just me in my tiny little sports car and this big truck. And the truck, I remember, it was a gold truck, and it had these antlers across the back window, which this is Texas. I wasn't very surprised. And everything was going fine. The truck was in the lane next to me, and we were going roughly the same speed. All of a sudden, the truck jumps into my lane and cuts me off. I don't really think too much of it, but I moved to the lane he had been in. And we went a little further, and he did the same thing. He cut me off again. I moved back to the lane I was originally in, and this guy did it a third time. And I barely had time to react before he rolled down his window, and he tipped this styrofoam cup out the window, and some liquid got all over my windshield. And then I saw his brake lights. He slammed on his brakes. And I slammed on mine, moved into the next lane, and floored it all the way to campus. I get to campus. I pull in the parking garage. I'm extremely rattled. And then I notice the parking lot sticker that I have to have the campus is in my front window. So I practically run to the nearest populated area of campus and walk to my class. I'm starting to settle down, walking up to my building, and I see that same gold truck with the same antlers pulling very slowly down the road in front of the building I'm in. And I was just panicked. And I called my mom, and I was like, okay, just so you know.
The world is full of haunted houses. And in Springfield, Ohio, John Ellinger lived in one.
My scariest experience, when I was a kid, I was terrified of this house we lived in. It was an old country house. And there were several things that I would see in that house, and it terrified me when I was a kid. Used to see people walking through the hallways. I used to see just stuff moving around in the closets and things like that.
It's always interesting to find unusual stories in the papers. And this one comes from Bermuda. With the headline Twin Tragedy, the story reads, Erskine Lawrence Ebbin was knocked down by a taxi and killed in Hamilton, Bermuda. And it was the same taxi, with the same driver, carrying the same passenger that killed his brother Neville in July last year. And both brothers were riding the same moped and died, aged 17, on the same street. Ever had the feeling of déjà vu? Steve Treadwell has.
I still get deja vu constantly. I used to have it all the time as a kid. I still get it to this day. I remember vividly having this weird dream about just being in this small town and driving by this store that sold like weird toys and like old antiques and things like that. I know that sounds really common, but I remember very vividly what the store looked like, where it was located. Never been to this store, and just about a year ago, I was buying something off of Craigslist, and I was traveling to a small town to go pick it up. And on the way there, I passed that store, and it looked exactly like that.
On August the 29th, 1968, all the televisions in America shut down. There was a murmuring on the TV that some believed was the devil's voice. The televisions were off for around 25 seconds, and to this day, no one knows what the issue was, and no one knows what the sound was from the televisions. Phil in Florida works in hospitals, and when going to work one night, found himself in a situation that got him scared.
Hello, this is Phil from Orlando, and I work for a hospital series of hospitals. So I go to hospital and pick up lab specimens. And there's this one hospital on my route where it has a reputation, more of a, how do I say it? It's a specialty hospital, so where a lot of the patients that come in don't come out. So I was doing my normal route. I enter the building and I see a few of the nurses just freaking out, and I'm asking them what's going on. And they tell me that they're hearing these noises in the operating room. And I work overnight, so they don't do surgeries overnight in this building. So they're freaking out. They're hearing noises in the operating room, and they're all afraid to enter the room. So I enter the building, I enter the operating room, and as soon as I enter the room, it just feels like a cloud of, it's very hard to explain, but it feels like something was impeding my progress. Like the air was thick, it was very, very stiff in the section where the operating room is. Now granted, the AC is on, so it's not like it's just hot in there. So I immediately walk in there and I feel my progress is being impeded, and then I hear this knocking. I hear doom 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 doom. And it's almost rhythmic. And there's nobody in the operating room. This is a whole isolated part of the building that they don't even use after hours. I go in the building and I walk around. I keep hearing this thumping sound. I can't find where it's coming from until I actually see in the actual surgical room, I hear dun 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 dun. So somebody knocking on the door. And the way that the hospital operating room is all of the doors are automatic. If you push the button, the doors open. I open my mouth and say, "Hey, is there anybody here with us?" And as soon as I say that, the doors open up. And the woman that was with me, she stayed at the entrance of the operating room, and she saw that happen and she ran, because there's no way to open the door unless you hit the button.
But it's not all about ghosts. This listener wants to stay anonymous, but wanted to share her story of lights across London.
From a young age, I believed in UFOs and aliens. I learned about this stuff through movies, and I always watched sci-fi documentaries featuring aliens and unexplained alien files. Within the last few months, I have been fortunate enough to witness many unexplainable things happen within the sky. The first one being a bright light in the sky that gradually disappeared. However, the most prominent and mind-blowing occurrence that happened to me was when I was watching the night sky, and suddenly I saw 5 bright circles appear across the sky and clouds. There were no planes around or any lanterns and no noises. These 5 large circle lights were moving across the sky outside my house. It was very unexplainable. However, I was not scared. I was very intrigued, as this is something that interests me a lot. I immediately called my family members to show them. We were also intrigued by this, and we were trying to figure out explanations of what it could be. However, we couldn't come up with anything. it was either something to do with the government or a UFO. Instantly, I checked Twitter to see if there was anything else, if anyone else had witnessed this phenomenon. Many people had tweeted how they had seen the strange lights within the sky, and they were all from different areas of the UK, all describing the same thing that I had witnessed myself with my own eyes.
ScaredPodcast.com.
I'm scared.
Back now to the United States, and Ezekiel tells us about the first time he got scared.
I think the scariest thing that happened to me is probably the reason I believe in ghosts in the first place. When I was little, and I don't remember the age, maybe 6 or 7, I was in my mom's bedroom, my mom and my dad's bedroom, my parents' bedroom, and I was watching this show that used to come on YTV called Lamb Chops Play Along with Sherry Lewis. I was like really, really little, and I just got this sense, I can't explain it. You hear people say, like, when their hair stands on the back of their neck and they get a chill. That's kind of like what it was. I got a sense that something was there and I needed to look around. And I looked out into the hallway and I could see this white shape gliding down the hallway. And as the shape got closer, it turned its head and I could see a human face. It was this older man. And of course, I panicked, and the shape continued until it went through the wall. And I waited till it was gone, and I ran downstairs, and I told my mom what happened, and I was frantic and panicked and probably completely unintelligible and nonsensical. And I tried to explain what had happened, and of course, my mom did what most parents would do in a situation like that. And she told me that it was just my imagination. I didn't see anything. Well, cut to a few days later, and we had to go to another city for a funeral. A great uncle of mine had died. And when we had got to the funeral home for the service, I noticed a picture on the wall. And it was the entity, if you will, what I saw that day, that glided down the hallway and into the wall. It was my dead uncle. Now, the funny thing is, a lot of people would say their argument would be, well, that was your imagination, that was your subconscious creating something. I had never seen a picture of my uncle before. Again, I was 5 or 6 years old. I had never met him in real life. My mom had never mentioned him. This was a great uncle. This was not a man she was close with.
Sometimes stories from history reach out and scare us. Let's take Violet Jessup, a nurse present on RMS Olympic when it hit another ship, RMS Titanic when it hit the iceberg, and HMHS Britannic when it hit a mine. This next story comes to us from Alexa in the Philippines. It's about a chapel that she'll never go back into again.
My friends decided to go to her school chapel to pray. Her school chapel has a prayer room with a glass door so you can see people coming in. While they were praying, they heard the door open. So they looked behind them because the door was behind them. And when they looked, nobody was there. Nobody was near the door. No one. So nobody could have opened the door because you have to pull it to open. So there's no wind to push it open. So they came out and went to me and their other friend, Jay. Jay decided to check it out and told me to come with. And I said I didn't want to, but it seemed interesting enough to check it out, so we did. When we checked it out, I couldn't even reach the second step up to the chapel because something was there that didn't want us there. You could just feel it. You could feel its anger. You can feel it. So we went around away from the prayer room and went inside the chapel and we started to pray. You were in the last pew. And when we were there, I kept seeing someone walking in the altar. Someone was there. And I knew it was the same thing that was in the prayer room that didn't want us there. It was so scary. I prayed and I just told Jay that I needed to go. So we both left. And I told him that it wasn't human. Whatever that we saw there, we didn't even think it was a ghost. It was stronger than that. We never prayed in the chapel again.
For many, mention Liverpool and they think of the Beatles. But for Mo Gunnery and family, their memories are of a young man and a motorbike.
In the year of 1968, my dad lived in a house on Priory Road with his mum, dad and his 14 brothers and sisters. My dad's older brother was very good mates with a lad who lived a few doors away from them, and this lad had not long got a motorbike and was forever going out on it. He would always hear him go out and come home, and my dad would watch him park his bike in the backyard from my dad's bedroom window. One night a few weeks later, my dad as usual heard this lad going out on his motorbike at around 6 p.m. And at about 10 p.m. that very same night, there was a lot of commotion on the street outside. And his family all went outside to see what was happening, only to find out that the lad had been in a motorbike accident and was instantly killed. His parents were devastated, as you could imagine. My dad and his brothers were all ushered back into the house by their parents and told to go back to bed. The next morning, the lad's motorbike was brought back to his parents, who instantly broke down when they seen it, and just put it straight in their backyard and covered it up with a waterproof sheet. That very same night, my dad and his brothers heard the familiar revving of the motorbike and the lights on and the engine revving on its own. They immediately ran downstairs to inform their parents, who of course didn't believe them until they heard it for themselves. The parents of the lad who was killed were as flabbergasted as everybody else, trying to work out a logical explanation as to how this bike was starting up and revving on its own. The strange occurrence went on for 3 weeks until his parents couldn't take no more and got rid of the motorbike. Is it possible that the spirit of this lad came back to his most treasured possession, or could it be explained as a fault with the electrics? I know which one I believe, but what do you believe?
Whilst preparing this first show, maybe some spirits didn't want their stories told. Here's Scott.
Hi there, this is Scott from California. I've been trying to record these promos for the Scared podcast, and my audio recorder is freaking out. I keep picking up these strange noises, and the computer is acting funny.
So the first show comes to an end, and thank you to everybody that sent in stories. If you'd like to be part of the show, do get in contact and let us know of a situation or experience when you were scared. And there's many ways to support this new podcast. Find them all at scaredpodcast.com. So thank you again for listening.
I'm scared.
And do join us next time.
This is the Scared Podcast.
If you've had an experience, heard an unexplained sound, seen lights in the sky, seen a ghost, we'd love to talk to you. Contact us now. Find us online. scaredpodcast.com.
I'm scared.
Twitter at Scared Podcast.
I'm scared.
Join us next time.
I'm scared.
And get scared.